Part 3. The Comedians and Their Influence. My question, can everyone enjoy YouTube comedy, is centered around research done on 4 main channels, and their interconnected accounts on different digital mediums. Therefore, my research setting is entirely online and completed using mostly autoethnographic methods. Autoethnography is, to quote Sarah Wall, a qualitative research method that allows the author to write in a highly personalized style, drawing on his or her experience to extend understanding about a societal phenomenon. Autoethnography is grounded in postmodern philosophy and is linked to growing debate about reflexivity and voice in social research. Completing autoethnographic research entirely online has its challenges. Its complexity is probably best described in ethnographic approaches to the internet and computer-mediated communication, which says, how the research setting is defined will depend on the phenomena of interest. For some studies, the research setting will be defined to provide access to the activities of producing and engaging in such online phenomena, or the relationship between the online activities and the individual's real-world experiences, activities, or sense of self. Researching this niche, I can confidently say that I feel included. The jokes and pop culture references I mostly understand, and I feel part of the conversation, even when just watching the video. However, my socio-economic and personal situation allows me to bring a critical perspective when watching. I use the phrase part of the conversation quite purposefully in this regard, as I don't take what they say as absolute truth, rather with a grain of salt. As I acknowledge that I hold biases, both subliminal and purposefully, I know that these creators do too. Therefore, my research into YouTube comedy, specifically the Joe Rogan Experience, H3H3, Tiny Meat Gang, and PewDiePie, are from a personal experience and methods and will produce a subjective conclusion. However, I will attempt to be as ethical and unbiased as possible, including the good with the bad. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into it. Inclusivity. Based upon Clifford Geertz's interpretive theory of culture, my observational framework has shown that audiences have an almost codependent behavior towards inclusivity. My understanding as a fan allowed me to understand the desire of the audience, but looking at the position as an autoethnographer, I also understand its obscurities. On one hand, we want a place where we feel as though we can talk about our media niche and expand upon and build upon it via memes, experiences, and stories, almost like fan fiction. But yet, on the other hand, it's quite obvious that the niche is quite exclusive. Even fans who accidentally expose themselves as being new by posting an old joke or interpreting an aspect of the video incorrectly or out of context get grilled. And depending on the intensity of the fan, get grilled hard. At times this can be quite unwelcoming, even when the creators encourage interaction. This means that eventually you will be accepted, but it's a question of is it worth it and how prepared are you to be wrong, which influences if you can enjoy YouTube comedy and its niche or not, providing a platform. It's become quite obvious that creators who provide a platform to speak, especially about people who have been stereotyped as a certain way, creates a lot of respect and enjoyment from the audience. I think it's a part of human nature to be pleasantly surprised when the person offers a perspective that challenges negative predispositions. To me, an example of this is Joe Rogan's Kanye West interview.
But what did it do to you? The main thing that it did is it destroyed my confidence. It made me this shell of who I really am.
The video really shows that Joe Rogan, at least in the Kanye interview, provides a platform for people to speak. This really humanizes Kanye and allows him to describe his mental health and how it makes him feel. I know Kanye isn't the least controversial person on the planet, far from it, but I think that's why the audience has such a huge draw to the video, because his experiences are the same things as the rest of us. I think the video really humbles him in a way that has a large role in limiting the alienation of celebrities, and this is really talked about in the comments. A similar example of this is the H3H3 podcast. The video discusses all aspects of the podcast, mainly about Trisha, and talks about the normalization of mental health. The comments see a trend in recognizing the increased chemistry between the two becoming more friends than enemies, hence the name. I think these types of videos are important because at the end of the day, it isn't just two people talking about their mental health situations, but it provides a platform for people to speak from experience to millions of people, a story which might resonate with the audience. Therefore, providing a platform to send a message allows people to respect the video and discuss it, hopefully in a positive way, meaning that, it does allow people to enjoy YouTube comedy. This enjoyment, although not used in its obvious sense, comes from the audience's connectivity to the video and the culture it has created, bettering their well-being and pursuit for a better self. Now, let's talk about the power of fans. The digital world has the potential to create utopic societies capable capable of greatness. The community of YouTube comedy has the power to build up and create, organizing and participating in events that build people up or contribute to charity. One of the most recent and well-known ones is Team Trees. Throughout the course of PewDiePie's whole subreddit, the top post of this year was about the 20 million trees that have been planted. This is pretty impressive, and it's a testimony to the positive audience mentality and drive that can occur within a digital community. This sense of positive community appeals to people's altruistic values and linking to what was discussed in part 1 about happiness being derived from our pursuit of potential. Doing something like this fulfills people's esteem and self-actualization needs, leading to YouTube comedy being enjoyed in a very tangible way. Oppositely, the digital world has the ability to create very disturbing and negative worlds. Let's talk controversies. There are a lot between the 4 creators, and I'm not going to get into it defending or attacking them. That's a whole nother 3-part series. But we can't get into enjoying YouTube comedy without touching on the obvious. The controversies, no matter what, divide communities. We do not live in a void, and these situations make it very clear. An audience once invested in the community becomes torn, as external views are brought into the topic of conversation. A view different from fan arts or jokes, something serious. Now, when a serious conversation happens, it juxtaposes a world of entertainment, creating stress within the community, being forced to take sides. And no matter what side you're on, it significantly affects your enjoyment of the creator's content and the community that you're involved in, especially if the controversy has direct correlation to a cause, issue, or aspect of society that you care about, rapport with the audience. This varies immensely depending on which channel you look at. With Joe Rogan, his introduction to media was very old media, being TV and similar programs. This is reflected in his internet persona, almost being above the audience, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. There's just a gap between him and his communities where his interactions are more distant. It's like I'll make a video and you comment and then maybe I'll see it and maybe I'll do something about it. Much more integrated than television, but still distant. Even his own subreddit make fun of themselves when Joe Rogan makes fun of them, which I thought was kind of interesting. In the video, Joe Rogan says that people who use his subreddit are fools and don't know what they're talking about. And on the subreddit, they got 93% upvote. These comments under the video are surprisingly very positive and apparently are fine with being grouped together and making fun of themselves. Whereas a channel like Tiny Meat Gang not only operates in a post video and then audience comment on it, but use mediums such as Twitch and live streams where the audience is an active participant in videos and content. This then creates a community where the audience can build off interacting with one another, and this is touched upon. I really feel as though this allows a broader spectrum of people to enjoy YouTube comedy in this format. It's truly the advantage of new media. So, to summarize, although some creators are more likely to attract positive attention than others based on their content, their enjoyment and involvement in their communities is completely up to the individual. The individual and their ability to involve themselves and thrive in the positive parts of the culture and interactions whilst avoiding the negative aspects of the community will allow them to enjoy YouTube comedy a lot more. Provided that you have the optimal external and physical environment to enjoy YouTube, it comes down to the ability to adapt to a changing landscape of the digital world and immerse yourself in utopic spaces that will increase your enjoyment of YouTube comedy. Therefore, YouTube comedy and its community should be utilized as a sole good in the pursuit of our potential and satisfying this physiological and self-fulfillment needs described in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This research is important in understanding digital audience perspectives, motives, and communities, and what makes them tick. This research is from my perspective, my personal experience, and has influenced how I interact with my niche and culture. Thank you.